The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
And 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we're live. It is Powtoon's Working Remotely and COVID-19 webinar. We're speaking with some experts today. We're going to get our heads around what this means for everyone. I'm sure you guys are so eager to get started. We had over 1,200 people register for this webinar, and we only just made it public a couple of days ago. So I know there's a big appetite to discuss this issue and to figure out how we can all grapple with the crisis at hand with visual communication. So I'm so glad you guys are all here. Some introductions. That's me on the left. I'm Nick Liebman, head of content here at Powtoon. Joining me today, my co-host, if I can ask him to unmute himself and introduce himself, is Daniel Nathan, head of customer success from our UK office. Hey there, Dan Nathan. How's it going today?
Hey, Nick, thank you. Hey, guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're from in the world. Dan here, Head of Customer Success, coming from you at our London headquarters for Powtoon. I'm really excited to be here today, guys. Really excited to see also, wow, we're getting so many people joining us here now. Despite the current situation in the world and considering everyone's crazy schedules and having to juggle home and work life together. So it's really great to see you. And I think it speaks volumes about how everyone really understands the challenge that the vast majority of companies in the world today are facing. So I'm excited. I'm excited to embrace change, excited to embrace shifting of strategies and priorities, and excited to discuss and learn more than ever, how important digital comms with a little bit of innovation, I guess, and creativity, how can really help plug the communication gaps that are inevitably forming in today's workforce. So thank you all for attending.
Definitely. And thank you, Dan, for co-hosting with me. I'm really grateful for that. If all of you, this will help us just be sure we've got our sound coming through, our video coming through. Please, in that question box, just give us a shout out. Tell us your name, tell us where you're joining us from today, and tell us, are you working remotely? Have you made that move yet? Are you making plans to work remotely? So let us know. Again, that's part of this is sound check for us to be sure that you guys are hearing us. And a part of it also, we want to get to know who is on the line with us today. Wow, we got answers coming in already. We got Mike, who's joining us, who's working remotely in Germany. Mike, welcome. Wow, look at all this. We've got Karen, who's joining us. Sorry, from India. This is great. JP from Rockaway, New Jersey, working from home. Sound and video is okay, says Lisa D. Let's see. Right now, registered nurse, remote in the U.S. Wow, amazing. This is great. Wow, we've got so many people saying hello. Sounds okay, says Karen. Let's see. Mike Kluppelberg. Pardon my pardon my mangling of your name there, Mike. Sound is working well. My name is Mike, and I'm working remotely in Germany. They've got Henry from Brazil, who's working from home. This is amazing. We've got Stuart, who's joining us from Cambridge, Canada. Been a remote video editor for 15 years. So for some people, this is not new, right? It's excellent. Tony is joining us from Hillsborough, New Jersey. We've got Yusuf joining us from Morocco. We've got, let's see, Paige, who's joining us. Hello, Ohio teacher. Distance learning in full swing. Absolutely. Sounds great, says Brooke, who's joining us from home, working from home in San Diego, California. We got tons of people chiming in here. Jama, who's in Quebec. We've got Kim, who's in Buffalo, New York. John Helmer, one of our good friends from the UK, is joining us. Hi, John. Glad you're here. Anyway, you guys are, Angela Nisbet is here. Sound is working well. She's in Trinidad in the West Indies. Wow, we've got people from all over the world who are affected by this. But you know what, guys, you didn't come here just to say hello to each other. Let's dive into what we're going to be covering today. Number one, we're going to take a look at the scale of this global work from home experiment. Why is it happening? Why is it important? And what are the challenges ahead of us? We're going to have a couple of very special guests today, Ed Sparks from Accenture and Gil Shefler from Kaltura. They're going to let us know how it looks from where they sit in the industry. And we're going to go through some top video templates that we recommend for working remotely for you guys. And of course, we will also have a chance for question and answer at the end of our presentation today. So if you guys would be so kind, just go ahead and drop your questions in as they come up. We may not be able to get to them right when you ask them, but when we get to the Q&A, we're going to go through and answer some of those questions for you, open to anyone on the panel today. So absolutely. And people are already asking, will we be able to get material from this session afterwards? Absolutely. Rahima asks that. Rahima, we're going to be sending an email tomorrow with a video replay of this webinar, so you can watch it on demand whenever you like, and also a link to a resource guide for you guys. But first, why? Why is this happening? Why are countries, cities, companies, schools, theaters, bars, and restaurants closing? Well, it's because of coronavirus. This is no shock to you guys, and it's happening all over. Germany's shut its borders and halts public life. Mayor Bill de Blasio of New York informs New Yorkers they should be prepared to shelter in place. San Francisco and the Bay Area just the last couple of days has gone on lockdown. The Trump administration's emergency plans say they could last up to 18 months or more. So it's all about social distancing, you guys, as opposed to what we're used to, being able to be in close proximity to people, being able to express ourselves socially with a physical piece of connection, shaking someone's hand, giving them a high five. Right now, we are, as a global group of humanity, trying to practice social distancing. Why? Because it can flatten the curve. This is an image from the University of Michigan Medical School. As you can see, that dotted line, that's the capacity of hospitals in a given area. If you do nothing to implement social distancing to stop the spread of the virus, very, very quickly, the local resources, medical resources, will be overwhelmed. Taking steps to curb the spread of a virus like coronavirus can help flatten that curve. And in fact, this is kind of theoretical here, the University of Michigan slide, but if you take a look at these two images on the right, these come from the New York Times, and these show the actual spread of the disease. We take a look in China. As soon as they get a spike, which is sort of like the beginning of this exponential curve, they implemented incredibly intense quarantining and social distancing. And you can see quite literally this curve has been flattened, like the top's been just chopped off. That's the kind of effect that social distancing can have. And when you don't have that, we see what happened in Italy at the beginning of this month. That curve simply goes up. So that's the reason, and that's the reason why we're facing such a massive disruption in the way we work. We're also seeing things change for our digital platforms. This is Powtoon's traffic from Italy in the first 2 weeks of March. As they went on lockdown, you see this huge upswing in traffic, and that's not unique to Powtoon. We're going to hear a lot more about that from our guests today, about how this is having an impact on the digital tools we use and how we're all connecting. So, what's the impact on work? The Atlantic notes that the coronavirus is creating a huge and stressful experiment in working from home, right? Companies are embracing remote working. The big tech firms are gearing up for it. And the coronavirus is making us see that it's hard to make remote working actually work for you. That's a big part of why we're here today. It's much easier said than done. These stats that we're going to take a look at here come from HubSpot. And these were the stats about remote workers before the coronavirus outbreak, okay? When people who were prepared to work remotely, these were the challenges they're facing. More than 50% say they feel disconnected from their colleagues. 22% say that unplugging at the end of the day is their biggest challenge. And 1 in 5 says loneliness is their biggest challenge. But a much bigger challenge also, less than half of workers say that they have proper security training for remote working. So there's are all sorts of issues, of gaps in our working culture that are going to be popping up here as more and more and more people, and I'm talking about millions of people around the world, shift to working remotely. And that's a big part of what we're here to discuss today. It's why our guests are joining us. I want to welcome Ed Sparks, who is the Senior Manager of Talent and Organization at Accenture. And I believe he's with us today. Ed, are you there?
Hello, I am. Greetings from London. How are you?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for joining us. let's see here. And I just want to move on to, I want to ask you a question. Tell us about Accenture. Tell us about your role there. What kind of work do you guys do, and what is your role with them?
Yeah, sure thing, no problem. So hi everyone, thanks very much for joining, and I hope you're okay wherever you are all around the world. So I am a senior manager within the talent and organization sector of Accenture. So Accenture is a big global management consultancy and digital firm. It employs about 500,000 people around the world, and I just found out today that it is the world's biggest user of Microsoft Teams, which I did not know.
Wow.
So a really sort of powerful collaboration tool there as well. And my job within talent and organization is to support clients through organizational change. And when I say that, I realize that there technically has never been a better time for someone in my kind of role in trying to support people through what is the biggest change that many of them will have ever gone through. Aside from that as well, I'm also the Europe lead for something that we call next generation communication. So within Accenture, we work with lots of different clients in major and minor organizations, and we provide them with consultants. And my job is to arm them with some digital communications tools, such as Powtoon, which help them to get the message across more effectively and help drive change at a local level. So that's a bit about me and Accenture.
Awesome, amazing. Yeah, that next gen comms project is really amazing, and boy, is it timely at this point. Now that you guys have that as a ongoing project inside Accenture, you've got those tools for your team, and it's really awesome. So here's a question: what is the impact of COVID-19 on your team, and also what about clients? What about the industries you touch?
So pick a word, Nick. Massive, fundamental, seismic. All of these words have been used over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
The word unprecedented is used a lot, and often I'm suspicious of that word because a lot of the time we can plan ahead for things like a terror attack or an oil price break. But this one really is unprecedented in terms of its scale. And even companies and clients that had really strong business continuity plans, for example, an extra office in case their first one could not be used, don't know how to apply those plans in this situation where they can't use any office, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Plans are being made and unmade throughout the time. So if you live in the UK at the moment, you live each evening for Boris Johnson's press conference, where he releases new rules or restrictions, and they can take any plans that you've made and throw them out the window there and then. If you do work in the oil and gas industry or a related one, which I do, then you're affected by the double whammy of the oil prices coming down at the same time as coronavirus coming in as well. So there's an extra economic impact there. And at the moment, it's too early to judge what the economic impact can be, but we can certainly assume that there will be one. We are seeing from our clients that projects are being put on pause, projects are being reassessed, and anything that's seen as nice to have is being reassessed to see whether it truly needs to happen right now. And it's not that the money's running out, it's just that there's that level of uncertainty reigning at the moment, and that's really impacting everyone. As you said, working from home is the new norm. And I think one element that's really important here, and you had it on your previous slide there, is that mental health aspect as well. So what is the mental health impact of everybody working from home? One thing my managing director was telling me the other day, in China, they're actually seeing divorce rates going up. So because people have been locked together for so long, they've really had to think about whether they wanted to be with those people or not. And that started to come through as well. So lots of social impacts going on as well as the economic and political impacts.
Yeah, wow. I mean, and the scale of it is honestly, I barely know what to make of it. Every day I'm kind of just trying to keep up. And luckily we have Powtoon, our Powtoon tribe, all the people using Powtoon out there, which kind of keep us all here focused on how can we deliver some good and not get overwhelmed. And speaking of good, I think that let's not waste another good crisis, right? What does that mean, Ed? Can you give us a little hope? What are the good things that can come out of coronavirus?
I will try and inject some hope into the situation. And there definitely is some. And this is a quote that is attributed to various people, from Winston Churchill to Rahm Emanuel, the Chicago mayor. This does not mean let's take the opportunity to triple the price of toilet roll. Right. But what it does mean is that because of the changes that are coming now, we have to adapt in a way we never had to before. And that actually leads us to ask some really great questions about ourselves and what it is that we can do. In the last recession, we actually saw that startup activity surged rather than died as a result of that recession, as people started to innovate and adapt to a sort of more cost efficient kind of world. One example I heard of today, which is really interesting, is there's a company in the UK which runs kids learning centers. So they've got hundreds of centers around the country. Their entire model is based on physically teaching kids, and they now have to close their centers tonight as part of the government's directives. They're going to move to an entirely online only model on Wednesday. Normally, a move like that would take 2 years. They're having to do it in about 3 days. So the
Right.
extent to which people are having to be bold is really, really having a big impact. We're also potentially seeing an element around what we call the lipstick economy. So during the last recession, people stopped paying for big things like houses or cars or big areas like that. But things for smaller luxury items, for example, lipstick, actually went through the roof and surged. And that's because people are still trying to find those creature comforts or still trying to find new habits or norms that they can produce there. So if you are in a company that produces things or experiments with new products, there are potentially opportunities there for you here as well. As the next gen comms lead in Europe, I've seen a massive surge for collaboration tools such as Powtoon, virtual whiteboarding services, mobile polling services, anything involving video conferencing and webcam. All of that has really, really stepped up. And I guess what that now leads to is, if you have those kind of tools, what can you then do to take a workshop that were going to run physically and do it virtually without making it really boring? And we've all been on calls that last for 2 or 3 hours and they're incredibly dull. How do you keep that exciting and impactful? And that's what we've tried to have a think about, some ideas, working with Powtoon and others on that. So in terms of top tips, if I can share some, Nick, is that all right?
Please do, please do.
All right, so obviously there's the obvious ones around keep it short, keep your slides limited and visually engaging. I think we all appreciate that as enthusiastic Powtoonists. There are other things you can do as well. So using the opportunity that video provides to break up your session, to provide a bit of impact is really, really powerful. Audio also has a really strong role to play. We now have a Spotify playlist, which we're calling Quarantunes, to help people get along and to use the power of audio, whether it's podcasting, whether it's different voices in the room to really come through. We're really trying to encourage people to turn on their webcams wherever possible, and that's leading to a whole sub-economy of fun around cribs and who's got the best house and who's got the cutest dog. We've seen some webcasts where people are taking the skills that they have, whether it's knowing how to play the guitar, knowing how to cook, and actually doing a 5-minute teaching session at the beginning of every workshop, just so everyone's learning a bit about each other and their talents. And then there's obviously some really fun and powerful things you can do around charity initiatives. So as we all sit here at home wondering how we can contribute and how we can help, we can, discuss as a virtual collaboration team, what is it that we can do to support local businesses, support local communities, what apps are out there that enable us to go and get shopping on behalf of the elderly, for example. So really sort of embedding that community spirit within your webcast through the use of collaboration tools, through the use of dynamic communications is really powerful. So for me, my main reflection of all of this is, I think, we are in a period here that's very uncertain, but we are allowed to experiment, almost embrace the madness, try something new. No one is going to blame you for trying something new because everybody is, and see if you discover something awesome on the way.
Amazing. Ed, I love it. I love that there is a positive, there's an opportunity here, even though this is, as you said, unprecedented and the scale is massive and it can be pretty frightening. But what I love is people coming together and people helping each other. We're all in this together. So that's great. Wonderful stuff. I want to thank you so much. Hang on until we get to the Q&A. We've got we have many questions that have already come in. But I do want to just continue on and meet our next guest, Gil Shefler, who is a strategic partners manager and XR advocate over at Kaltura. So and I want to just bring him on here. There you are. Gil, are you
Nick.
there? Hello.
I am here. Thank you for having me on this really important conversation.
I'm so glad that you could join us, and I think that your perspective and also Kaltura's position connecting people remotely is going to be really, really interesting here. I understand you have a few slides, so I'm going to hand over our presentation to you, and if everyone will be kind and patient, I'll just get this here, change presenter.
Sure. So I think a lot of the statistics I'm going to show are going to echo yours, and I think it's really interesting seeing what's happening in the world. So for those of you who are not familiar with Kaltura, and I'm going to wait for for Nick to hand over the slides.
Paul, just one
Kaltura,
moment. Almost there. Thanks so much.
No worries, man.
All right, you should have that now.
Here we go.
Excellent.
Excellent. So I am the partners manager and extended reality evangelist at Kaltura. So that means that I deal with a lot of the integrations that we have with our partners, such as Powtoon, and also augmented reality and virtual reality, and maybe we'll get to those a little bit later. But sorry, I'm just going to get rid of my laser marker here. Here we go. Okay, so Kaltura is an online video platform founded in 2006, and it's got over 1,000 customers, which constitute 25% of the Fortune 500s, over 700 universities, including all the Ivy Leagues. And what that means, what that breaks down into, is that if you have a lecture, if you're a lecturer at a university, say at Harvard, for example, as a Kaltura client, and you want to upload that video of that lecture, you're going to be using behind the scenes Kaltura. And the students, if they have user generated content, they're going to upload it again to the video, to the Kaltura video platform. If you're a company, like an Accenture, if you're one of the Fortune 500s, 25% of those use Kaltura, and they use it for town halls. They use it to share content with one another, just like Ed just spoke about right now. So it's a fundamental video platform for employees and students around the world to communicate with each other. And so because we have this vantage, this insight into usage, I'm going to share some statistics, and again, they echo Nick's stats. So the cutoff is actually March 16th, but if you look at the waves here, usually we have peak usage on a Monday, and then it kind of trails off during the week, and it kind of reaches a nadir on the weekend. And again, the next week, it repeats itself, and the one after that. But last week, we saw a significant increase into the overall number of plays around the world into Kaltura's over 1,000 clients. And then just, the cutoff is March 16th. We're seeing that, I can tell you that it's gone much, much higher since. Now, what exactly is that usage spike? What's led to it? One more chart, if you will. So here we have the personal capture statistics. Personal capture is like the basic record function that, say, a university professor or student or a employee at a company will have. And so again, you see the regular pattern we saw before. And this specific line is the United States, the largest market that we have by far. But 3 weeks ago, we actually saw Italy. Now, in this line, this flat line, you have all of the usage in Italy, Belgium, and Spain. But suddenly, Italy diverges from that line and actually surpasses the usage in all of the United States. And last week, it was 4 times the number of overall usage in the United States. Wow. So that's certainly a pretty dramatic number. But because the cutoff rate was on March 16th, look what happened on that day. That is the day, by the way, I think that Bill de Blasio called off school, and I think many other cities did as well. I'm based in New York, so I get the local information. Mm-hmm. The United States suddenly had a surge in usage. It's really vying with Italy in that sense. You have Belgium and Spain also climbing rapidly. And so what that means is that we are seeing a huge increase in number of Kaltura users creating videos to share with one another, whether it's a class at a university or if it's an employee who's looking to share, as Ed spoke, something that's happening at home, or maybe to just view a video of a conference meeting that they had. So those are the numbers, but these are the faces. These are the people behind the numbers. So you have Michael Hogan, a psychologist at Galway University in Ireland, who's using capture tool for the first time. You have Raffaella Margherita Milani, who's associated with the University of Padova in Italy, also talking about how they're using Kaltura in conjunction with other tools like Zoom. And here we have Anne Oldorf-Hirsch at University of Connecticut. Also, this is from social media. There are many examples like this. So, but I think you could break it down into many ways. But one way is looking at the VOD element, watching the video on demand. The second is live, what we're doing right now. It's so essential to replace that office environment that we doesn't seem like we'll be having anytime soon. So here we have the Zoom integration we have with with Kaltura, and you could see the numbers speak for themselves, a huge surge in usage. Kaltura also has its own real-time communications tool, recently relaunched, revamped, and we're seeing over a growth of 400% in 1 week. And I think also that we're talking in GoToMeetings, and there's Zoom, and there's Kaltura Meet, and there's WebEx. I think that in light of this crisis, a lot of us who hitherto were not very familiar with the nuances and the differences between each and every one of these, I think that now it's going to become really fundamental to understand, when do I use GoToMeetings or Zoom or any other real-time communication tool? What kind of company am I, or organization, university? So I think that the specific tools that each one brings to the table become very, very important when you're deciding, how do I communicate with my student body or with my employees? So again, this is just comments on a couple of the users of the Kaltura real-time communication tool, which really is specializes in emulating the class experience, the classroom experience. And I think that the changes we're seeing right now are not going to go away. I think that, I mean, God willing, next week or a month from now, hopefully, the very latest, this crisis will abate. But there's no telling exactly when. It's likely to last a while. And even if it does, and when it does, the changes we're seeing right now are going to remain. So it's really important to think not just about certainly the short run, how am I dealing with the new challenges that are appearing every day and solving problems, but I think it's very important when you're making that investment to think what works in the midterm run, and the long run. So be mindful of that. It's not a quick and easy solution. Now, nuances, I spoke about this before. I hear a lot of clients say, I have an authoring tool, or I have this real-time communication tool, but I think that we're going to see multiple vendors, each specializing in a niche, being used at companies and universities. It's not going to be one fits all. Just like if you think, to use an analogy, maybe some of you guys remember when Twitter came out, and I said back then, this is a while ago, what do I need another news feed? I already have Facebook. And then LinkedIn comes out, and then TikTok and Snapchat. The idea is they're going to be different environments, different tools that fit into different niches, and we're all going to be starting to become specialists ourselves and using more and more of these. So what to do? So at Kaltura, I often advise clients, how can you use video of both Kaltura's tools and other tools in conjunction with Kaltura to give employees and students that ability to express themselves, to communicate messages. And so just a few things off the top of my mind. Certainly, I like a Powtoon that has an integration with Kaltura. Thank you for having me on this chat. But I think what's really Kaltura is like the main vehicle, the pipes of the video operation. When you have a tool like Powtoon integrated into it, as we do, then it really gives that a panache. It lets people express themselves using both animated and not animated tools in a way where it doesn't matter if you're an advanced video creator or a novice one. There's something a little bit for everyone. And also, because you're going to be onboarding a lot of these new tools, you might want to consider like stuff like EasySoft or WalkMe, which are like tip balloon companies. So often they have like walkthroughs of new products so that you don't have to call support to ask, how does this happen, or how does that work? It just kind of pops up on your browser using HTML injection. Now, I am the extended reality advocate at Kaltura, so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention all the very cool and rather affordable technologies coming out around augmented reality, virtual reality, and stuff in between. And 3D objects is a wonderful tool to communicate, whether it's looking at, actually I'm working right now on a 3D object of the coronavirus, of COVID-19, so that you can put on top of a video in the form of a 3D object and manipulate and learn more about. But also, if you have VR headsets, if you have augmented reality headsets, give them a try. I think now is the time to be innovative and looking for stuff that really shorten that gap between people at home and when they're speaking to one another. And just finally, one small tip. There are many ways to monetize videos, and a lot of companies have like a huge library of videos. In this age, in this time, I think it's likely that a lot of people will go back to education. They'll be looking to improve their skills. And there are simple solutions to having just like a video portal to make it also worthwhile for companies, universities, organizations to monetize that video. So it's, you know, beneficial for both sides, the students and the vendors, the companies, the educators. So these are just some of the tips that I have. I think there are ways to make kind of fun competitions at universities and organizations to use video, to share it. We have at Kaltura like our internal portal that people are sending video of their lives at home. And I think maybe, you know, kind of promoting that, encouraging that is very important to do in this time when people feel alone. So that's my presentation. I hope you found it interesting, and feel free to ask questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gil. And I think that that's we're at a moment where because we all have to be, we're gonna become experts in those nuances you mentioned. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna take the presentation back here. Here we go. Beautiful. And thank you so much for that insight there. Please, if anybody has any direct questions for Gil or for Ed, we're going to cover those in just a moment. But first, it is time for the remote working video template lightning round. We're going to go through a few of the most helpful video templates to connect with your team to stay productive while you're working remotely. These are also listed on our ultimate guide to working remotely, which you will receive a link to in the follow-up email after this presentation. I also just want to invite Dan Nathan back with us here. I know that he's been looking at questions, but I just want to pull his attention back here. This first template we're looking at, the coronavirus and workplace safety template. This actually has been, we turned this around really quickly. We wanted people to have resources as soon as possible. We're already seeing this being modified and optimized and customized and put out there in the wild. So I just want to hand the presentation over to Dan Nathan, who's going to show us a version of this template in the wild. Dan, are you there? Dan, are you there?
I certainly am. Thanks, Nick. Sorry.
I know, it's all good.
Yeah, guys. So a great example of a template coming up. So Powtoon's produced, by the way, guys, we produced a template specifically for coronavirus for those of you who may have seen it. And one of our customers who've used it is a company called Henkel. This is actually a Powtoon template. So Henkel, ladies and gentlemen, being one of the, I would say, Europe's largest chemical and consumer goods companies. They make lots of laundry detergent, cleaning products, so you can imagine that their products are in high demand at the moment. And like most other companies, they take the welfare of their staff very seriously, and regarding coronavirus, they're very concerned over the situation. So they've produced this Powtoon, this template that we provided, and you all have access to it if you have an account in Powtoon. Put their logo on it, and then this has been sent out to just over their entire workforce, which I believe is just over 50,000 employees. And I know we're coming to questions shortly. I was just asked a question by someone who's working for the NHS in Scotland, the National Health Service. They said, listen, we have to do remote working. We have to communicate with our team, but our team do not know how to handle remote working. Where should we start? So one of the great things, guys, to start, and like, how do we start? How do we start communicating is understand what are the most important things when remote working. What is it your staff need to remember? Or your colleagues need to remember? What are the most important points you want to share? You may want to be giving them a few tips and tricks, or certainly a few tips regarding how to communicate, how often to communicate, what kind of meetings you're going to be having in the morning or the afternoon. And you can start this by literally opening up a template inside Powtoon. This one can easily be recustomized to like a team meeting, and start creating. Start sending out videos to your staff. Start sharing it on your intranet, and people will sit up and take notes. Guys, I was listening to Ed before, and he was talking about innovation and creative ways to stay in touch. And we at Powtoon here are doing the same thing. You've got to realize, guys, it's very easy to, I guess, fall off the radar, particularly when you're remote working. And it's very specific. Also, if you're leading teams as well. It's very easy to forget that, you know, the other people in your team also have feelings. They also may be slightly concerned about the situation and whatnot, guys. So you can start also thinking of creative ways to be in touch. And I can recommend one tool as such. If anyone's using Slack, for example, and I know a lot of companies are, you may want to check out a free program called Donut. Donut's something that we're going to start using ourselves here in Powtoon, which basically sets up random like coffee breaks remotely with people that you may never met before inside your organization, to help with collaboration, to help with you know, staff loyalty, and to help really with staying communicated whilst working remotely. So we're also looking at ways here in Powtoon to be innovative and to try to share best practices on how to stay connected to your employees and colleagues and peers whilst working remotely. So there we go.
There you go. And I think that example, it just shows how easy it is to take a template, add your logo, and you've made it your own. Also, the sky's the limit. I mean, you could swap those characters out. You could change the color scheme. You could change the fonts you're using. You can do this in 5 minutes, or you can make this a completely unique masterpiece, which is really, really great. And I also just want to mention a lot of those other issues about staying connected, not just to replace the social connections we have when we're in the office, but also just plain, how do you work? How do you share the results of your research with someone? Well, we've got a template for that. Sharing the stats from an A/B test or something like that. Anything that you're working on that you need to share the outcomes of, you can do that with video and visual communications. How about an e-meeting follow-up? When you see someone in person, and we're used to that, you can just sort of say, okay, next time we meet, we'll do this, this, and this. But all of those normal habits we have, the structures around how we're connecting, all of that's been disrupted. Use a video to follow up on your e-meetings, on your distance meetings, so that you know what the next step is, right? Project kickoff. This is, again, when you're in a room with someone, it's easy. When you're spread across the country or the world, it can be much harder. Get on the same page when you kick off projects with a project kickoff video. And then this one, honestly, we actually internally, we use this one a lot. Set and review team goals. You can make goals for a team. You can do one-on-one goals with your manager. If you are a manager, this is a great way to encourage your direct reports to get engaged with their goals, to think creatively about how they can achieve them and how they fit with the goals of the rest of the company. By the way, you could also scale that up and use this for company goals. And finally, training. You know, we heard that's a huge, being able to impart information and expertise is a huge component of people communicating visually at a distance. And so definitely video training is key. And that's one of our most popular templates. We see people using that all the time. And again, we have a remote working guide for you guys. You're going to receive a link to this page. We got articles, we've got template roundups. You've got a bunch of these templates we just went over are accessible in one click right there. So you will get access to that. And we are updating that as more information becomes available, as we're able to churn out more content that's relevant and valuable for you guys. We're going to be adding that to that page, including the replay of this webinar. So please do, you'll receive a link, bookmark that, because we're going to be updating that as we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've been so patient. You've been so wonderful. Our guests have been so informative and so great. And now it's time to get those questions there. I know that, Dan, you were taking a look, pulling some relevant ones. Is there what's our first question we want to take from the crowd?
Sure thing. Thanks, Nick. Well, just to put everyone's mind at rest, this question's come up a lot. Some people are late to the webinar. Some people are not able to attend. So people are asking, are they getting the recording? Yes, they are. I believe within the next 24 hours, we'll be setting up a follow-up, as Nick mentioned, with the guide to remote working. And also in there, guys, will be the webinar recording. So just to put everyone's mind at rest there. It's really interesting. People are asking, let's have a look here. Let's have a look. So Blanca from, I believe, Portugal, saying thank you so much. Thank you for making the templates, really enjoying using them. Let's have a look. And I'm just going through here. Someone's asking here, what was the free coffee break tool that I referenced? That was an application called Donut, guys. So thanks to Kim for asking that question as well. We're looking here, how do we deal with we've got Jajma Ahmed, who's asking, how do we deal with confidentiality with documentation and content that we're loading up into Powtoon? He or she, I apologize, is working in the public service sector. So obviously there may be some concern regarding Powtoons being used within confidential information. We do answer that through our ISO certification, JAMA. So if you want to go on our website and check out that, you'll see that we do dot all the I's and cross all the T's in that thing. Let's keep going. Nick, any questions on here you'd like to particularly focus on?
Well, let's see here. Tracy, who is from Ohio State University, is written in. She says, wondering about how folks are making use of smartphones. If their target audience doesn't have computers or internet at home. Seems most everyone has a phone, even if not a computer. And she says, follow-up question. I haven't tried this yet, so forgive me if it's a silly question. You're already forgiven, Tracy, don't worry. I'm wondering how well Powtoon works from smartphones for both creating and viewing. Well, we do have a mobile companion app. It's called Powtoon Connect, and that connects your media library on your phone to Powtoon. So you can take a video on your phone. In fact, if anybody follows me on LinkedIn and they've been seeing my Good Morning LinkedIn videos I've been posting this week, I use Powtoon Connect to do that. I film myself with my iPhone. I launch the Powtoon Connect app, and I upload that video directly from my phone to my media library in Powtoon. Then I go to a desktop, and I can add that as a video background, and I can add bumper slides on either side to introduce it. I can add text on top and all that, and images and all that good stuff. So Powtoon Connect, look for it on the Apple Store and on the
Google Play and App Store.
And the App Store. Those are the words. Yes.
Absolutely. Just want to jump in there. Now, guys, you saw the Henkel video that I showed you before. Actually, guys, as it happens, we have Christoph in today. Christoph Sascha from Henkel. He actually created the Henkel video from Munich. And it looks like he's enjoying Powtoon. Nick, he has asked if we want to bring him into the conversation. He'd like to speak about how Henkel are adapting to the situation. If you're able to make him a panelist, he has said he'd like to.
Think I can.
Chris, if you're up for that, Christoph, we'd love to make you a panelist quickly, and maybe if you've got a microphone, maybe share your experiences down at Henkel with us. It might take a few minutes for Nick to do that, but really pleased that you could join us today.
And this is Ed. I can touch just briefly on the previous question around mobile as well. So when we talk about mobile conferencing, some of the apps now available for Skype, Zoom, Teams and others are actually quite advanced. It's not just a case of being able to talk to people. You can share your screen, you can vote, you can have multiple people in as well. And it's acceptable as well to have these calls on the go now. So I'm actually having a lot of my virtual conferencing calls whilst walking around, because you need some exercise if you're going to be cooped up all day as well. So some of the apps are actually pretty powerful. And then there's a few companies that we know that are developing their own mobile apps, their own ability to talk or share or put virtual whiteboards or vote or draw pictures even, all available in one app as well, so that people can collaborate together.
And I also want to mention, don't forget about social media, which is so closely connected to our phones, but also is a way to get to connect with others at a distance. I think, Christoph, I believe I've unmuted you. If you have a microphone, you should be able to speak. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm quite stoked at the moment that you guys showed off my video, which is actually not mine. I mean, the template provided by Powtoon was fucking perfect, on point. And what should I say? So maybe some notes about myself and about Henkel and the use of Powtoon.
Sure.
We started in doing so 1.5 years ago. It was a pilot project within Henkel, including TCS, product development, and the Inno team. So it was not meant for marketing, which may surprise at the first sight, but this tool was about that we get a voice and a kind of digital tool that we can express ourselves and telling our stories about equipment, about engineering, and so on and so on. And since we started 1.5 years ago, I took immediately the lead on this project because Powtoon is exactly what I have waited for so long and badly. And in the meantime, I'm not longer counting how many videos I dropped off. And I just can say that or emphasize that you should put your hands on this tool. And most of all, in such critical times and strange times that we are facing at the moment, this tool will help us all to get connected and to spread our messages around the globe. So Powtoon, very well done. I'm a big fan of you guys. And yeah,
Wow.
just
Christoph,
awesome, really.
thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your insight and where you sit, having been using Powtoon for a year and a half, and how well positioned it is for this moment in time. So thank you so much. Are there other Dan, Nathan? Did you see other questions there? Are there any other things that we might want to address?
We're getting quite a few questions about templates, and in particular the COVID template. People are saying if everyone has access to it. You certainly do, guys. So just log into Powtoon. Remember, Powtoon is free. So you don't even need to spend a penny or a cent on it if you want. You just log into Powtoon and go to our template gallery. Once you're logged in, you'll find the COVID or the coronavirus template there for you to use. And remember, guys, it is a template, but you can completely customize it, do as little or as much to it to really put your branding and your creative instincts, your creative spark, I should say, into it as well. So everybody has access to that template.
Yeah. We have a question here that is coming from Miriam. She says, my students have been given Chromebooks to do their schoolwork from home. Will they be able to work with these resources that you've mentioned, including Powtoon? Miriam, as far as I understand, as long as they have access to a web browser, they should be able to use Powtoon. Dan, correct me if I'm incorrect about that. Please do correct me, but I believe that should work for them. And I know
no correction needed, Nick. You're absolutely correct.
Wonderful. And I know that we've worked with a number of schools that use Chromebooks with their students, so I do know that that's possible. And let's see here. Oh, just Vittoria mentions to us, I watch a lot of Powtoons to study from home. It's very useful, and I love it. I love that. And let's see.
Got a really interesting comment here from Alfredo. Alfredo said he got a bill yesterday from AT&T via video, as in a video bill. That's a new one. He's saying, is that an e-video? It absolutely is. So it looks like AT&T themselves are also joining the video revolution.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Alfredo.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I can tell you, by the way, if I could share, that's going to be, I reckon, Sunday Sky. So they're automated video billing companies. And Sunday Sky is one. Idamu is another. And that's we're talking about niches and nuances. That's one.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sensitive to everyone's time. We're actually already a couple of minutes over the time we've allotted for our webinar today. But I'm bowled over by the insights. I'm bowled over by the creativity. I know that this is going to be an adjustment for all of us, right? So I'm so grateful for all of you guys who joined us. Like I said in the email inviting people to this webinar, there really is no rule book. We're writing the rule book right now. You, me, our guests, everyone who's trying to figure out how we make this thing work. How do we continue to keep the world spinning, even if we can't get together the way that we used to do it? So I'm really inspired today, and I'm just grateful to all of you for joining us. A reminder: you will be receiving a link to a replay and our guide to remote working via email tomorrow. So don't worry, you'll be able to see this. You'll be able to watch this webinar on demand whenever you need to go over any information. Also, please feel free to email us at Powtoon, webinar@powtoon.com. webinar@powtoon.com. You'll also see that email address in the confirmation emails that you got when you registered for this webinar. We do review that account, and we try to answer questions directly if we can, or to incorporate them in upcoming webinars. So do also look out for new webinars coming your way. There's so much to discuss, and things are changing so quickly that I have a feeling we'll be doing this on a pretty regular basis. Again, thank you to our guests, to Ed and to Gil. Thank you to Dan Nathan for co-hosting with me today. And thank you to all of you. I just want to say that in this world, we hope you stay healthy. We hope you stay connected. And please remember to stay awesome. Have a great day, you guys.